that Xabi Alonso, his father was a manager, and he was coached by Guardiola in Bayern, by myself in Real Madrid, by Ancelotti in Real Madrid, by Benitez in Liverpool. So I think if you put all this together, I think Xabi has conditions to be a very good coach.
Trent Alexander-Arnold, Xabi Alonso, a more mature Mbappe, the rise of Arda Güler. Real Madrid isn't just rebuilding, they're reloading, and the rest of Europe should be worried. This isn't just a new chapter, it's a new era at the Santiago Bernabéu. After a season that fell flat under the weight of expectation, Real Madrid has pulled the trigger, again. The faces have changed, the philosophy might change, but the mission remains eternal. Win trophies, dominate Europe, be kings of football. But here's the million-euro question. Does this new version of Real Madrid have what it takes? Or is it just another Galactico experiment waiting to explode? Let's find out. To call the 2025 season underwhelming would be generous. You sign Kylian Mbappe, arguably the most electric talent in world football, and end up with fewer trophies than the year before. That's not just disappointing, that's embarrassing by Madrid standards. Sure, they opened strong, dismantling Atalanta in the UEFA Super Cup. Vini, Bellingham, Mbappe, the trio looked unstoppable. For a moment, it felt like the Galacticos were back. Madrid were cruising, like GTA-style sidewalk cruising. You get the idea. But then, reality hit. 3 months of disjointed performances. No rhythm, no identity. They bounced around the top of La Liga like a drunk man on a tightrope before it all came crashing down. And then came the dagger. Arsenal, of all teams, knocking them out of the Champions League. And for one night only, Declan Rice looked like a Beckham, Roberto Carlos hybrid. And in Madrid, when things go wrong, there's one universal solution. Blame the manager. Carlo Ancelotti, legend of the game, became the sacrificial lamb. But here's the thing. Carlo didn't fail Madrid. Madrid failed Carlo. This man pulled off the double in 2024 with no Benzema replacement, with Joselu as the only natural striker. He squeezed every drop of brilliance out of Bellingham, who arrived as a number 8 and left the season as a hybrid 10.5. Vini had his best year, Rodrygo too. Even Kroos rolled back the years. That's the Ancelotti effect. Look at his resume. Ronaldo's best statistical season, under Ancelotti. Benzema's Ballon d'Or level campaign, Ancelotti. Drogba's monster year at Chelsea, you guessed it. Kaká's Ballon d'Or, Ancelotti. He's not a control freak, he's not a tactical tyrant. He trusts his players, manages their egos, and lets them breathe. It's old school man management in a world of overcoaching, and it works, until it doesn't. Because for all his genius in cup competitions, Carlo has always struggled with the grind of the league. This is the same guy who somehow bottled League One with PSG. Yes, that PSG. So now, the page turns. Enters Xabi Alonso. And with him, everything changes. Formation, philosophy, mentality. This is Real Madrid's boldest move in years. But is it a masterstroke or a gamble too big, even for the biggest club in the world? This is the Athletic Journal, and this is the truth about Real Madrid's new era. At Madrid, Alonso inherits more individual talent than he ever had at Leverkusen. But that also comes with more pressure, more expectations, and a dressing room full of egos, legacies, and potential clashes. Managing that will be just as important as any tactical tweak. But if there's one thing Xabi Alonso has shown, it's that he can build systems that elevate talent without stifling creativity. He gives players purpose. Every pass has intention, every movement has structure. But within that structure, there's freedom. And that's a balance Madrid has lacked for some time. This is where it gets interesting. The tactical ideas that worked so well at Leverkusen might just be the perfect framework to fix Real Madrid's recurring problems. So let's break it down. At Leverkusen, Alonso's favored system was a 3-4-2-1, which turned into a 5-2-3 out of possession. That fluidity allowed him to press high, dominate transitions, and control the midfield. It gave technical players room to operate in half spaces while using wingbacks to stretch the pitch. Now let's translate that to the Bernabeu. Madrid's roster at first glance might look bloated. Too many midfielders, too many left wingers, but under Alonso's system, it could all fall into place. Start with the midfield core. Real Madrid's strength, no question. Camavinga, Tchouaméni, Valverde, of course, Bellingham. That's an army of technicians, ball winners, box-to-box dynamos, and creative minds. Under Alonso, that midfield will likely be shaped around two pivots. Think Camavinga and Tchouaméni, who win the ball and distribute quickly, similar to what Xhaka and Palacios did at Leverkusen. Then, just ahead of them, two advanced playmakers, Bellingham and Güler, who can operate as dual tens, just like Florian Wirtz did so effectively. Jude Bellingham, in particular, might rediscover his best version under Xabi Alonso. The freedom to roam, drop deep when needed, press high when the moment is right, and always threaten in and around the box. That's tailor-made for his profile. As for Arda Güler, Alonso could be the man who truly unlocks him. We've seen this before. Alonso took a promising Wirtz and turned him into a generational statement. Then comes the wide game. At Leverkusen, Frimpong and Grimaldo were relentless. Madrid have different profiles, not true wingbacks per se, but they have the talent. Ferland Mendy and Fran Garcia on the left, Carvajal, Lucas Vazquez, and perhaps even Trent Alexander-Arnold on the right. Now imagine Trent in a hybrid role, part right back, part inverted playmaker. A deeper Cancelo-type role, perhaps. He'd have license to drift inside and dictate the tempo with his elite passing, while still offering width when needed. It's not just plausible, it's a weapon. Then we come to the attack, where the biggest question marks lie. Three left wingers, Mbappe, Vinicius, Rodrygo. All of them want to operate in that same space, that inside left pocket, cutting in and shooting. But only one can start there. Alonso will have to make a massive call. There are three options, and that's the key. If Alonso is serious about building a team instead of a highlight reel, Bellingham has to be the heartbeat. Not just a late-run merchant or a decoy for Mbappe and Vini to isolate their 1v1s. No. Jude needs to touch the ball more. He needs to run games, be involved in every phase. Because if Madrid are going to dominate again, not just win games on moments, but truly dominate, they need their midfield to be the engine. And Bellingham is the premium fuel. Think of how Alonso used Xhaka. Think of the freedom and responsibility he gave him, letting him dictate tempo, break up play, and support the attack all in one. Jude has the stamina, the IQ, and the mentality to do that even better. He's not just a number 10. He's not just a goal scorer. He's a complete footballer. And if Alonso gets the structure right, gives him the double pivot behind, gives him a free license to roam, press, and burst forward, we might be looking at a Ballon d'Or contender version of Jude Bellingham. Then comes the fun part, pairing him with Arda Güler in those attacking midfield zones. Because where Jude brings power, timing, and tactical maturity, Arda brings magic. He's not trying to bulldoze through players, he's dancing through them. He's slicing defenses open with reverse passes that barely anyone else even attempts. With Arda finally fit, finally confident, and finally being given actual trust by a manager who understands how to use him, he could blossom into something very dangerous. A creative spark in a team full of firepower. You put Güler between the lines, with Jude arriving late, Mbappe running behind, and Vini stretching wide, you've got chaos. Defenders won't know who to mark. That's a system where Güler doesn't just survive, he thrives. It's a system built around synergy, around understanding space, around players thinking 2 steps ahead. And guess what? Xabi Alonso was that player. He sees the game like Güler sees it. That's why this pairing, Alonso and Arda, might end up being one of the most important developments in Madrid's new era. But Alonso's not just inheriting a midfield renaissance, he's also walking into an identity crisis. Madrid spent all of 2025 trying to figure out who they were. Were they still Vini's team? Were they Mbappe's team now? Was Jude the face of the project? Or was it just a bloated mashup of world-class individuals without direction? That's what Alonso needs to fix. And it starts by establishing a hierarchy that fits his system, not just the marketing posters. Because here's the brutal truth. Someone has to take a back seat. Maybe it's Rodrygo. Maybe it's Güler for a few games. Maybe it's even Vini or Mbappe getting benched when the team needs structure over stardom. Whatever it is, Alonso will need to be bold. He'll need to make decisions that not everyone agrees with, but that the system demands. And the reason that might work is because, unlike some managers who crumble under the spotlight at the Bernabéu, Alonso already has the respect of the players. He's been in their shoes. He's lifted the Champions League in white. He's taken war wounds in El Clasico. When he speaks, they'll listen. He's not just a name. He's Xabi Alonso. And for Arda Güler, for Jude Bellingham, and for every young talent waiting in the wings, that could be game-changing. They now have a coach who values development over short-term hype, a coach who won't just use them when needed, but actually build around them. Because let's be honest, Madrid have had a habit of falling into Galactico traps. Buy the biggest name, let the talent sort itself out. But football doesn't work like that anymore. You need structure, you need balance, you need purpose. Alonso brings all of that. And if Güler and Bellingham are the first two pieces of that puzzle, young, smart, creative, hardworking, then Madrid are building the right way. Not chasing headlines, not just stacking talent, but shaping a new identity, a smarter one, a scarier one. And that's just the beginning. That's why Tchouaméni, or as some fans call him, the Wall, is going to be absolutely crucial for Alonso's system. Whether it's a 3-4-2-1, a 4-2-3-1, or even a hybrid setup that shifts mid-game, you need a player who reads the danger before it happens. And that's exactly what Tchouaméni does. He doesn't just tackle, he anticipates. He doesn't dive in recklessly, he steps in, takes the ball, and recycles possession like it's nothing. And that's why Alonso is going to trust him. Because when you're building from the back and your wingbacks are flying forward, you need someone to keep the structure intact. You need a guy who can slot in between the center backs when needed, slow the game down, and make smart decisions under pressure. That's Tchouaméni in a nutshell. And here's the thing, we haven't even mentioned Camavinga yet. The guy is a Swiss Army knife. You want a defensive midfielder? Done. You want a left back in a big Champions League game? He's done it. You want someone who can dribble out of tight spaces and launch counterattacks? He's your man. Camavinga's energy, intelligence, and press resistance are tailor-made for Alonso's tactical system. At Leverkusen, Alonso's midfield wasn't just solid, it was fluid. The players rotated, switched roles mid-game, and confused the hell out of the opposition. Camavinga brings that same unpredictability. He can start deep and suddenly be the one breaking the lines and joining the attack. His presence adds another layer of dynamism. And with Kroos now retired and Modric winding down, the stage is wide open for Camavinga and Tchouaméni to become the new pillars of Real Madrid's midfield. If Alonso uses them together, one holding, one driving, Madrid are going to be near impossible to play through. Now let's shift to the big talking point, the front line. The biggest issue last season was balance. On paper, having Mbappé, Vini Jr., and Bellingham in the same team sounds like cheat code stuff. But in reality, there were growing pains. No one knew exactly who the attack should flow through. Was it Vini's one-on-one explosiveness? Was it Bellingham's ghost runs? Was it Mbappé's high-speed sprints and low finishes? At times, the answer was none of them, because the structure just wasn't right. Now, under Alonso, that has to change. The roles have to be clearly defined. Mbappé, for all his brilliance, can't just roam wherever he wants, unless the system allows for it. Alonso has to set boundaries, structure first, stardom second. And here's how I see it potentially working. Mbappé on the left, but with specific instructions. Drift inside, play off the striker, don't clog Vini's space. Vini on the right? It's a possibility. He's electric down either wing, and flipping him could actually give Madrid more width and allow Mbappé to stay closer to goal. That could also help Jude operate more freely behind them. Or, and this might be Alonso's most clever move, he plays with two inside forwards and a central striker. Maybe Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back bombs forward and provides the width, while the rest operate narrow, combining and pressing high. Which brings us to another big piece of this new Real Madrid machine, Trent. A right back? Sure. But also, a quarterback, a deep-lying playmaker, a guy who can switch the play, whip in ridiculous passes, and unlock teams from distance. Alonso knows better than most how valuable that is. He was that guy. Don't be surprised if Trent ends up playing some games in midfield, or as an inverted right back who tucks in next to Tchouaméni and helps Madrid dominate the ball. In possession, this team could be playing with four midfielders, Jude, Güler, Trent, and Tchouaméni, all interchanging and pulling strings. And when the game gets stretched, That's when Vini and Mbappe can kill you on the break. It's all about control now. Madrid can no longer rely on individual brilliance every week. Under Alonso, there needs to be a clear identity, a system where every player knows their job, but also has the freedom to express themselves within that structure. Because that's the beauty of Alonso's football, order and expression, working in harmony. And honestly, with the squad he's inheriting, the perfect blend of youth, stardom, and tactical flexibility, he might just be the one to take Madrid into a new dynasty. Absolutely. And that's the big point here. If Xabi Alonso wants to implement the kind of three-at-the-back system he mastered at Leverkusen, Florentino Perez has work to do. Because as exciting and flexible as Madrid's squad is, they are still thin when it comes to natural center-backs. Let's be real, relying on midfielders like Nacho, when he was still around, Tchouaméni, or even Camavinga to fill in at the back isn't a long-term solution. You can't build a Champions League winning system on improvisation, not at this level. At Leverkusen, Alonso had Hincapie, and Tapsoba, defenders who could defend but also build out from the back, step into midfield, and cover wide areas when wingbacks bombed forward. That's what Alonso needs at Madrid. It's not just about defensive solidity, it's about positional intelligence and technical quality. So unless Militao, Rudiger, and Alaba are healthy and in form all season, and that's a big if, Real Madrid will need another center back or two. Not just squad fillers, but players who understand how to operate in a fluid, ball-dominant back three. Now, about Trent. You're spot on. In a three-back setup, Trent's liabilities become strengths. His defensive positioning has always been questioned, especially when he had to cover space on the counter. But in a system where he tucks into midfield when Madrid have the ball, that's his dream role. Trent wants to be a midfielder. He wants the ball at his feet, to pick passes, to dictate tempo. Alonso's system gives him that platform. You're not asking him to mark tricky wingers all day. You're asking him to be Madrid's deep creator on the right. And with someone like Tchouaméni or Camavinga able to drop and cover when Trent pushes high or inverts, it just works. Mbappe wants the Ballon d'Or. Bellingham wants to become the best in the world. Güler wants to prove he belongs. Camavinga and Tchouaméni want us to step out of Modric and Kroos's shadow. Valverde wants to be more than the utility guy. And Trent? He wants to show that he's not just a flashy right-back, he's a world-class footballer, period. So while Alonso has a massive job ahead, he also has a squad ready to be molded. A squad that needs cohesion, not just highlights. And if he gets it right, if he finds that tactical sweet spot between structure and freedom, between control and chaos, then we might be looking at the birth of a new Real Madrid dynasty. Not just built on stardust, but on a system. They need a bunch of center backs all available so that the Spaniard can rotate and keep everyone fresh. On top of that, at Leverkusen, the expectations were also lower. Less egos on the team, less media attention. Like Leverkusen were not great in the 2025 season, but nobody really talked about them. Because like I said, the expectations weren't that high. But in Madrid, it's a completely different story. Every loss feels like the end of time, and each player on the team gets a ton of media attention individually. But if there's anyone that understands a locker room full of Galacticos, it would be Xabi Alonso. He was signed as a Galactico in 2009, joining Madrid along with Ronaldo, Benzema, and Kaká. He knows what caused them to be bad in the first few seasons, and what it took to get them clicking again. Combine his experience as a player and his experience as a manager, and he has the qualities to be successful. At the same time, though, what made Madrid great in the past was the freedom that Ancelotti gave to the players. That's why the 4-4-2 diamond worked so well in 2024, even though they didn't have a proper number 9. Will Alonso give that sort of freedom to the players? He had very specific instructions to his Leverkusen team on where to be, where to go, but maybe with more talent at his disposal, he would provide more freedom. Only time will tell. Alonso could be the next Zidane, but he could also end up being Lopetegui 2.0. One player that Alonso should work very hard to get back to his best is Vini. Real Madrid's appointment of Xabi Alonso signals the dawn of a new era, one built not just on star power, but on tactical identity, structure, and purpose. For too long, Madrid have relied on individual brilliance to carry them through, but Alonso brings a system, a clear philosophy shaped by his success at Leverkusen. He has already shown that he can transform teams, develop young talent, and challenge the established order with smart, adaptable football. With a squad full of versatile, hungry players, from the tactical engine of Valverde and Bellingham to the creative spark of Güler and Brahim,